You have goals and you have been accomplishing them. You got that degree, you got that job, you started that business, you did all the things. When your friends see you, when your family sees you, they are in awe that you have accomplished as much as you have. But deep down, you know you were called for more. Deep down, you can see the vision of where God has called you to be, and you know the work it's going to take for you to get there. But there are so many roadblocks that come up as a part of that process, and it can be isolating because if everybody else is telling you that you're doing enough or more than enough, how do you find that motivation to keep going? How do you find the structure or the planning to make sure that you accomplish that calling that God has placed on your life? And I know that's definitely something that I have had to deal with in my own personal life. And that's why today I invited my good friend here who is exactly in that space as a coach. That is exactly what she does. She helps you to build that momentum to take you into that next season that God has called you to. So I want to just introduce my friend, Dr. Fran. Say hi to everyone.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm super happy to be here.
Thank you for making the time in your busy boss lady schedule to be here with everyone. I want you to tell my audience a little bit more about who God has called you to help because the name of your business is Momentum Strategies for High Achievers, and that's a very intentional name. So tell the audience a little bit more about what it is that you do.
Yes, thank you. Number one is I was called to be a healer. And earlier in my life, I thought that meant being a doctor. So I spent 15 years as a hospital medicine physician, and that really shaped a lot of what I took into the second phase of my life. Because as you know, if you're a high achiever, you know this, you get the good grades and you go to church and you do all the things, you check all the boxes that we have, get married, have kids, buy the house, all the things. And then you get to a point in your life, and for me it was in my late 30s, and for a lot of my clients it's in their late 30s as well, where you're kind of like, you look around and you're like, is this what all the climbing was about? Like, is this where I was trying to get to? And you realize that there is more for you, that God did not call you to a certain profession. He called you to a transformation. He called you to do good work with his other children. And so that doesn't look the way we in our, humanity, it doesn't look the way we think it looks. And so for me, I had to make the decision to change my profession because what I was spending my time doing was not fulfilling the calling that I had. So I say all that to say, I had a client last week who told me, "You're a healer. What were you doing in the hospital?" And I was like, "That's so funny, such a funny thing to say." But I transitioned out, and I had to, heal myself first and figure out what was going on with me first. And then I extended it to other people around me. And what I've found is that a lot of high achievers, women of color in particular, are running that same race, especially in our generation. So women between like 30 all the way up to like late 50s. We're in this generation of where we were just climbing, 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 and not really aware of where we were going. And so we get to a point where nothing feels fulfilling. And so I help women when they're in that stage of life where they're like, I don't know, I'm up against this wall. I feel slowed down. I feel like I can't move or think as fast as I usually can. And there are really just a lot of obstacles that have grown up along the way, and we have to overcome those obstacles to really get that momentum back. So that's what I do.
Man, there's so much to unpack there because you're 1000% right that when you're within that age group, that is a state of life. Like there really is no avoidable part of that because you get to the place where your responsibilities have grown. You're no longer responsible for just keeping you alive, right? At that stage, you've got big girl responsibilities. You're managing the business, you've got kids, you've got family. And I know even just for myself, that was very difficult at first, from going from being used to living alone to having family in the house to being married and just all the things. And although I would never trade it for the world, and I get so much joy out of that community of family around me, there is a toll also and a stress that comes with that. So can you speak a little bit more about how you help women with working through that?
Yeah, I would love to because I think the biggest part of it is our expectations, right? We expect that our productivity in our own goals, our own career, building a business, it's not going to change, even though we have these added responsibilities. So we're trying to be 100% in all the areas. And this is really a season of life where we have to shift things around. If we've never delegated before, and I can attest that it took me a while to learn how to delegate. Like now it's time to trust people to do things that we can't do for ourselves, or that we choose not to do because maybe, we ourselves don't have to do that specific thing. And so that's a big eye opener. So we start with, I have people just lay it all out, like what all is going on. Tell me everything that's going on. And it's usually like a big, just release of all these things they're dealing with. And they're trying to be 100% the best student, the straight A person, the best, the good girl, the best daughter, the best wife in all the areas. And they're taking on more than they're releasing. So we talk about priorities, we talk about boundaries, we talk about finances, we talk about getting organized. It's really a seasonal shift. Like you're in a season where things have to shift. Things have to shift. Like you just have to do things differently. And it helps you to speed up in the areas you want to speed up, regain your energy back because your energy is going all these different directions. We
Yeah.
focus the energy, we regain the momentum, we really figure out what the priorities are, because we've like collected things along the way. And now it's time to really like take a look at all the things we've collected to see, okay, what do we need to keep and what can we release? And it's so interesting because a lot of these things are, the first 40 years of life, we've been given rules that we know how to play by the rules, that have kept us alive and kept us successful to a certain point. Now, those rules are given to us by our early caregivers. But now, around age 40, usually like 35, we get to write the rules that are going to take us for the next 40, 50, 60 years. Because we now have those rules can only take us so far. We now have different responsibilities than the people who gave us those rules. The rules that my mom had that she helped me with, they don't apply to my life now. My mom didn't have a business. My mom wasn't, in higher education, all these things. So I had to figure out my own rules if I wanted to survive and thrive in the next portion of life. So that's what I help people do. And that's a grieving process. And of course, all the feelings come into it and everything, but it's that transition. That's what I help people do.
I smiled throughout everything that you just said because I borderline feel like you had cameras on my life and you've been watching my struggle because you are just strumming my pain in everything that you said. And I can definitely attest to that. In that space of that transition, there was a certain way that I was used to even my house being kept. And I never realized, I always considered myself to be a super clean person because you would come to my house and it would barely look lived in.
Mhm.
But once there were other people living in it, I realized I actually hate cleaning. That's why I
Uh,
don't touch stuff. I don't really use
yeah,
really
exactly.
use the house. So it never really, looked like any cleaning needed to happen because things just weren't being touched. And I had to realize that I needed to
Mhm.
shift my mindset because that mindset that I had back then is not going to work for the life that I'm living right now. The two things are just butting heads, and it was leading to a lot of anxiety for
Right.
me. It was stressing me out. Walk in a room and just
Yeah.
immediately mood everything would just change, and it was because I was still trying to hold on to that
Yeah.
old set of this is what the house must look
Yep.
like, this is how things must do, and I wanted to put everybody into my living box, and it just wasn't realistic. And I did have to come to a new understanding of
Hmm.
what life looks like for now and how everybody can contribute to that. And when I tell you the weight that was
Hmm.
from just that thing that seemed so small, but
Yeah.
was so difficult to do. I mean, it was a bath. This was not a quick conversation done in an hour type of situation because we're truly talking about, mindset shifts.
Right.
And I'm sure that that's something that you come up a lot with the women that you work with because they are high achievers. And
Yeah.
it's a word that gets thrown around a lot. And it's one of the things we were talking about even earlier today in our conversation about what it means to be a high achiever and carrying that weight and being called to do more. And when everybody else thinks you're doing enough, how do you balance all that? So I want you to speak to the audience a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so good. So as a high achiever, and my daughter's a high achiever, so I see it. My kids are 10. I can see it as it's starting out. It's just, it's something that comes from within you. You can't make somebody externally have that need to like compete with themselves, right? Because we are typically competing with ourselves. We're not competing with people around us, which is why sometimes we run the race and we look up and we're the only ones there. We're like, where's everybody? We think they've lapped us, but we've left them in the dust. And it's just because we're trying to be better than we were last week, trying to be better than yesterday, trying to be better than last year, which I love. I love that about my people. And so when you have someone who is internally driven to do more, to be more, and who also has a calling on their life, like what? Like that is the secret sauce right there. So the problem with being that type of woman though is that it's lonely. It's lonely. There's not a lot of people you can talk to who will get it. My best friend is always telling me to go take a nap. She's just like, you know what you need? Rest. You need a week off. You need to go play. You need to go to the pool. And I'm like, do you see my list? And so a lot of times you have people that just think that they're in awe of what you've done and they think that you just really need to slow down or take a break. But you really see the vision of where you want to get to and the timeline of where you want to get to it. And it's a different kind of conversation to have that with someone who's a fellow high achiever. I've seen the magic that happens when there are two friends who are both high achievers who are naturally friends. I knew these ladies who lived in the same city and they were naturally friends. Their business just took off because they were both like going at it and they were encouraging each other. And I'm like, wow, what a winning combination. And it
Mhm.
was around the time I realized this is when I felt my business shifting and I was calling in more people who were similar to me, more people who were highly educated, more people who were around my same age, more people who were, who had still yet more they wanted to achieve, even beyond. And then I thought, I want to be that iron sharpens iron type of person
Yeah.
for someone. And so just almost as soon as I decided that, I started kind of calling in women who felt like they couldn't talk to their friends and family about certain things. They couldn't, and it was mostly because, like, I don't want my good friend to feel like jealous, or I have a lot, I've done a lot, I make a lot of money. I don't want to be like, oh, poor me, like complaining about something when I live on this, 8-acre, wonderful farm that people are calling heaven on earth, but I want to redo the closet. It's that kind of thing where,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, poor you, and so so
Yeah.
you have a conversation with someone and immediately you feel that, oh, I better never talk about this with them ever again. Like, and now who do you talk to? And so luckily I've had wonderful clients who have referred people that they've had conversations with to me and they just get it. They're like, I need to talk to someone, but I need that person not to feel like I'm already like above and beyond. Like I need that person not to compete with me, not to be jealous, not to tell me to slow down, not to, not to judge me and all these things. So that's what I provide for people. And it's just been amazing.
And it's no wonder why you're in the growth phase because what you described is something that all high achievers need in their life. And it is very difficult. You mentioned about your best friend. That's my dad. My
Mm,
dad is my biggest cheerleader. I mean, when I have an episode, he is sending that to everybody in his
you're so
contact list.
good.
I know they are tired of seeing my face. He is my biggest fan. But when we have, conversations and I'm talking about the weight of it all and having to do all the things, and he's like, Mimi, like rest, like you're doing so much. Like it's crazy how productive and how active you are, but it's like, do you see my list? Like, as you
Yeah.
said, like, do you understand that like I'm supposed to be on book number 5 by now and we're still working on one? Like,
Yes,
we got a lot to do. Rest doesn't fit
exactly.
finally in that list. And yes, it is needed,
Mhm.
but time and a place, for that. And I think it's amazing for you to be in the high achieving space as a person who can understand and apply that to other women. And it doesn't surprise me that you have women who are referring other ladies to you. And that's something that I love about how you've built your business and where you're at now in this growth phase, that you are making it a key element of growth for you in this next season. So tell our audience a little bit more about how you are building your referral network.
Yes. And if anyone out there is afraid of networking, I will tell you, I was there too. I used to feel like it, networking is nothing of what I imagined it was when I first started. Because you kind of hear about, you go there and everybody's got their business cards and it's really boring. And I was intentional about learning how to network. And now it feels fun. It feels so fun. It feels like a game, like a project. It feels like, how when you're about to go get a new degree or a certification, and you're like, ooh, I can't wait to like be really, really good at this and like be masterful at it. That's how I approach networking. And so I want to tell you, if you approach networking the way you approach any other goal in your life, and that is to be masterful, to be better than you were last year, you will have so much fun with networking because it's a lot that you can learn to do in there. And so I'll tell you how I started. So when I started my business in 2018, the first thing I started to do was to learn how to deliver my service. Like I wanted to make sure that I was masterful as a coach. I was masterful at, you know, being empathetic and, guiding people. I didn't want to be one of those coaches, those coaches you see on Reddit and they're just having giving people a hard time and harming people. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make sure that I was good at what I did. So I spent some time doing that. Which, your business is slow growing when you're focusing on that, but it was good. And then I learned how to sell. I wanted to learn how to have a conversation that helps somebody make a decision, which is still an extension of coaching. And then I leaned wholeheartedly in 2021, wholeheartedly into learning how to market, which was for me networking. And what I learned first off were like the just the basic things that you needed to do on a weekly basis to get your network and to keep it. And it's similar to Lisha, you were talking earlier about gardening. It's very similar to gardening, very similar because you plant seeds and then you water them, and sometimes they die and sometimes they bloom and sometimes they bear fruit. And so that's what you want to do. You want to plant as many trees that will bear fruit as possible. So I always tell people that like your marketing strategy is like planting an orange tree. You want lots of oranges to come through. You don't want to just like go to an event and meet an orange and that person becomes your client. That's one client. But if that person becomes your tree, you are bearing oranges for season after season. And so that's my goal whenever I'm networking. And so that's a mindset shift that took place. Is like when I go to meet people, I'm not trying to meet every single person in the room. If I walk away and I just have like 3 really great conversations and get 3 contact information that I can follow up with, that's enough for me. And I see a lot of people who go in and they want to meet everyone and have like very sort of like a wide, network. And I want a deep network. And so if you shift your thinking to think, I don't need to meet everyone in the city. I just need to sift and sort and find the people that are like me, people who resonate with me, people who like to do the things I do. It'll change the way you network.
I love that. I absolutely love that because you framed networking as marketing.
Hmm.
And so many people think of it as just an activity that's just its own thing, and it's in its own space, and it's just one of those things where they're going through the motions, but it is truly a part of marketing and it should be yielding results, right? You go to network, you should be getting something out of it that helps you to grow your business. And I'm glad that you pointed out that the goal should not just be an individual client, because that in a lot of ways can limit you. Now, as a networking girly, I know your networking effectiveness is only as effective as your system.
Mhm.
System is the name of the game. And you mentioned about learning some of the activities you need to do on a regular basis as a part of that. So, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about that with the audience.
Yeah. So there are two different ways you can network. One is in person, one is virtual. And I say find the one that works for you or do a mix, but just do it. So you should go to at least 2 or 3 events a week. And then from those events, not everybody's going to be your cup of tea. You're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. But meet people, follow up with them, and sift and sort is the best way I can put it. And I say this because I want the mindset shift to be that you're not everyone's cup of tea and they're not yours. You do not have to feel guilty about throwing away people's business cards or deleting them or writing in your cute little notepad, I will never speak to this person again. I've done that before. Like I used to feel so guilty. I'm just like, oh, but then maybe, and I'm like talking myself into this relationship, and it's like, no, it's sifting and sorting. So in order to be able to sift and sort, you need to be able to capture like the people that you meet so that you don't walk away going, I don't have that person's phone number, their last name, or their email. I don't have anything. Like I'm gonna stalk them on Facebook. Like, how am I gonna find them? So the first thing is when you go there, you're prepared. So when in-person networking, you can use paper business cards. A lot of people are not using those anymore. I find that if I do get a paper business card, it's fine because I have a visual reminder on my desk of that person. But you don't have to do that. And if you're just starting out, you don't have to, you have that expense in your business just starting out to get $100 worth of business cards. You don't have to do that. I make my business cards on Canva and I save them as a picture on my phone. And what I do is I also use like Blink, like the, digital. But those are fine if the person's actually going to go to their Blink and look you up, or if you're going to go to your Blink and look you up. So there's another level to it that makes it better. In person, take a selfie with the person you've talked to. Now you have your face in that person's face, and you have give them your phone and say, put your number in. I'll send you the picture. That way we remember who we talked to. Put their name in, the picture, you send it. Now there's a text thread that you've met this person and you remember who you talked to. And then you can send them the picture of your business card so that they have all your contact information. I approach networking as I'm not going to assert myself in what I do on all the people. I mostly want to gather information. So my main goal when I go there is to meet people, to get to know them, to hear what they have to do, just to really walk in curiosity. I want to know if this person is a cool person and I want to know this person, not I want to tell them what I do and sell them right here and there. That's annoying. Those people like, let's do a public service for the world and like a better generation of networkers. Like, please don't go there and like try to sell me anything. But let's get to know if we align, if we like the same things. Even better if your networking can happen in a space where you naturally gravitate toward. If you like pickleball, go join the situation. I'm not a sports person, so that's why whatever the situation is where they do pickleball, go there. But I'm a book girly. I like going to bookstores, coffee shops. I meet a lot of people in coffee shops. I'll just see them and I'm like, hey, what are you working on? And strike up conversations. Um, so find a place that feels natural to you and then lean in. If you have kids, PTA, all the school activities, meet the other parents, don't just stand against the wall. Go out and like have conversations. So then you sift and sort and you decide, you know, have one-to-one conversations with the people where you can talk to them longer. And then you decide if this is somebody that is, I call them the cool people. Like this is my cool bird. Like we jive. Like me and you, we always are in alignment. It's like love her, right? So those people go into your system as being ones that you keep in flow.
I love that. So much value in that. And you're right. And I'm glad that you pointed out that you've got in person, but don't sleep on virtual either, right? The
Yeah.
majority of me and Dr. Fran's relationship happened right here on Zoom, right?
Yeah.
And that's how she became one of my favorite people in all of life. And we will sit here and talk for hours and hours and hours. And Zoom allows us to do that with busy schedules, right? So
Mhm.
do sleep on that. Do not, because I know for me, the way Texas traffic is set up, especially here in Houston, it is a level of ghetto that I
Mhm.
do not partake in. And
Yeah.
any time that I can avoid it, I go with that. So if you left it to me, I probably would never leave the house.
Yeah.
However, I'm not going to let that stop me from growing my network, which is an
Right.
extension of growing my business. So even if I stay in the house and do not leave for a full 30 days, I am still going to make sure that I am meeting my goals of how many people I'm adding into my network. Now, what I would suggest to you guys is to start having virtual coffees too. Even
Yes.
when you're these people at these networking events, like having that one-on-one time where you really get to find out, as Dr. Fran so pleasantly put it, if they're your cup of tea, because that is very true. Everybody is not for everybody. And we have to stop getting into this like kumbaya, like falsehood of you got to like everybody. Everybody's supposed to be besties. Like that's not how that goes, right? That's not how that goes. And that's not a bad thing. It is okay for
Yeah.
us to respectfully come to the conclusion that we would probably make each other's lives miserable and we should maybe not continue this, right?
Right.
Because I cringe when I see your name come across my phone.
Yeah.
Even if you would want to pay me to work with you, why would
Yeah.
I?
Yeah. And
Why
it's
would I?
really important when you're maintaining flow with the people in your network, it's important that when you see their name, you want to call them. Like, I was in a whole tailspin in March because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm having so much trouble making phone calls. Like, what's wrong with me? Like, I want to do, and then I realized it's not me. I just don't want to talk to that person, you know? And what really helped me a lot, and I think if you're a high achiever and a perfectionist, this may help you too. So I think it's worth saying. I do not have a finite, I mean, an infinite amount of people that I'm in flow with. I'm not trying to like conquer the whole of the internet, which before I started with the system that I'm using now, it was overwhelming for me to think about like everybody I had, I meet a lot of people. I meet all these people and I have to like keep in contact with them. Well, now I have a container, self-imposed container of 250 people. That's it. If other people come into the network, if they're cool people, they go on this list. 250, that's it. And so what happens is if I see someone's name and I only have 250 seats, which sounds like a lot, but when you really like, you can start with 50. If you say, okay, I have 50 seats, is this person going to get one of those seats? And if your stomach hurts a little bit and you're like, I don't really want to call them and check and see how their family's doing and see what they're doing for the summer, that person doesn't belong in that seat. And it's okay. It's not like you're going to cut them off and never, but they're not going to be in flow. And the flow is the regular communication that you would have because with people that you care about because you care about them. And those are the people that become your orange trees. And because they see how love out loud, they tell people about you and then they help to bring in referrals.
And the referrals come in such a natural and organic way because it is truly real. It's not a forced
Yes.
thing, right? I know that's how we've developed that relationship in my head when I talk to someone and I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen with this relationship, but you need to meet my friend, Dr. Fran.
Mhm.
Like
Exactly.
that is a definite, I don't know what's going to come of it, but that needs to happen. And you've been the exact same way with me. And I absolutely adore that about you. And it was built off of real time, real consistency, and getting to know each other. And it is overwhelming when you are used to a world that is so focused on social media vanity matrix. How many followers do you have? How many likes did you get on this? How
Yeah.
many views do you have on your latest reel? And we get so focused on these vanity matrix that do not lead to true influence, that do
Exactly.
not lead to a real conversion in business. And it skews our understanding of what will make an impact. and
Yeah.
what is enough. You guys imagine if all you did was two virtual coffees per week. That's two conversations, 2 hours.
Yeah.
In a year, you would have had conversations with over 100 people. You
Yeah.
don't think your business would grow if you had 100 people that solidly had a good understanding of who you were as a person? Now, granted, as we said, not everybody is going to be a gold star, but the more intentional you are about the energy and messaging that you put out, the more God will attract those aligned people of who you need in your life, and you will definitely end up with more yeses than nos.
Hmm.
And that's been my experience within in recent months of being, that level of intentional about the places that I was showing up with networking, because that was a big part of it too, that
Yeah.
you mentioned about showing up in the places that are true to you. A lot of times we naturally want to go to the things that kind of, are right on the nose. I'm in real estate, so I'm gonna go to real estate networking events. And
Mhm.
when you do that, you're going to meet a lot of other agents, right? Like, it's not, and you might not even enjoy that thing. That's what it was for me. But instead, when I show up to something that is about, women's networking and sisterhood, because that's something that I really wanted in my life, just to expand in sisterhood after spending so much time just focused on my own personal journey. I mean, I am over the moon to show up to those things, right?
Exactly.
And for me, I didn't see anything that I really wanted to attend. So I started my own. I did my own thing. And that's the same for you guys too, because I know that's the beauty of the internet, that we have people from all over the world who are able to receive these messages. And not every area is Houston. Not every area has an event or group for anything under the sun that you could think of that you would want to do. There are some areas where you can't really just be as boisterous about being a Christian,
Yeah.
right? So where do you go in that instance? And I want you guys to know, like, if you don't see it, build it. Like,
Exactly.
can 1000% build it. I am nothing special. I just took action on a thing, right? You guys can 1000%. If you do not see something that you want to do, then go ahead and build it. And if you don't see it in your area, you might actually find it online.
Mhm.
And that's definitely an area that people sleep on. But now we're talking about all of this kind of extrovert activities, right? We're
Mhm.
talking about all of these things and building your network, but I want to take a step back, because I feel like we really breeze past how incredibly brave you are as a person, and having made a major transition. Girl, 15 years as a doctor.
Yeah, brave. It's funny you say brave. I'm like, you don't feel brave when you're in it. Some days you feel a little crazy. But I know that I heard God. I can't remember what year it was, but I remember I have something great for you, not good, but great. It was just those exact words. And I never let that go. And at the time, I thought it was the person I was dating. And I was like, oh, I'm going to get married. We did get married. But then, like, as I started to grow the business, I'm like, this is what it was. Like, there is something great, So I don't even feel like it's brave. It feels more like, I don't know. It's just like, just do it. Like, I've got you. You know how they say in the Bible, there's so many times they say, don't be afraid. It's just like, I got you. Yeah, you're going to go through some stuff, but you know, you're going to make it. I turned my entire life upside down. Everything. It's different than it was back then, but it's so much better. I feel like I had built this life with the way that I thought it should be, but not very much the way that felt true to me. And so now I have the life that feels really true to me. And it's really great.
I commend you so much on that true obedience to the calling, having the consciousness to realize and listen to that thing that was going on in you that just didn't feel, I don't know what this is, but it just doesn't feel right. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel like this is what life should be, because there's so many people out there who are living not their life.
Yeah.
They're living somebody else's life, and they're not even sure how they got there. I know
Yeah.
that was me. That was one of the big things that started me on my spiritual journey, because I just got to the point that I was just like, this cannot be life. Like,
Yes.
I don't even recognize the marketing world. Like
Yeah.
AI has been such a great thing, but then it also had a whole nother side. There's so much intrusiveness, there's so much dishonesty, there's so many things that just go against everything I believe as a
Mhm.
person. Like from an integrity standpoint, I don't know that I can live this life. I don't know that I can do this. And it was hard pill to swallow. And once I started the digestion process of it, it was a pause for a second. Okay, like but now what though? So what do I do? What is the next thing? And
Yeah.
I admire the grace of you making that transition. And I would like to know what advice you have for
Mhm.
ladies or even gentlemen who are out there who are in that space where they can just feel it internally
Yeah.
that this can't be life. What advice do you have for them?
Mhm. So I have advice. I give this advice to everyone, but not everyone takes it. Probably 3% of the people I say this to actually hear it and it lands and they take it because it's so hard. But my best advice is to be countercultural. Be in this world, but not of this world in the deepest sense of the word. Like, be countercultural. I am not, and I know some people for their job, they have to be on social media. I am not. I am not because I know what that noise does for me and my goal of having a simple life, a quiet life. I carve out an area of my niche that feels good to me, and whoever comes into that area, not only are they immediately feel the calm of it because my space is not all over the place. So when they come into the room with me, they can tell that I don't know what's going on in the world, and that ain't me, like I'm uninformed. I am blissfully uninformed about all of the day-to-day happenings. I don't believe that our human brain was ever built to know the global events from the tiniest little thing, somebody with their sourdough starter, all the way to towers are being we're not supposed to carry all of that with us. And so when you really know your calling and you really can focus in on who you're here to serve and how you're here to serve, you got to block out the noise. Even in your own industry, you got to block out the noise of what's going on in your own industry and say, this is my area. When people drift into my little calm, little quiet area of the world, this is how they get healed. And so for me, it's been a lot of saying no. And a lot of it's happened over the last year and a half at this point, where I've audited everything. We were talking about networking. I audited where I network. I had to make some hard decisions. I had to have some hard conversations with people. And no, I'm not going to rejoin your program. It was great. And I met a lot of people, but in this season, and I'm like gonna limit it to two. I'm gonna go to two, groups. I don't network with men anymore. I don't have referral partnerships with men anymore. I actually don't even refer my clients when they need something. I have a very strong network of women who do things, and I send them, I refer them to women, and that was a choice that I made. And so it's things like that where, just when you go through one layer, go deeper. How can I make this as authentic? How can I make my life as authentic as I possibly can, for what I need? And that'll help me have the peace in my life to serve other people. Because especially in this work, the service-based business, people come to you with a lot of their stuff and you can't like be overwhelmed with a lot of people's stuff that you haven't processed. Like you have to be in a grounded space to help other people. I hope that answered the question.
It does. No, it definitely does because um I mean, there's so much that comes along with being in the coaching space, and you do carry a lot of the weight of the stories that are shared with you by um your clients, whether you call them students, the people that you work with. And and everything that you're building, one thing that you consistently mention is about the God factor of it all. And I would like for you to talk a bit more about that, because one thing that I've found for a lot of people that were trained in the corporate world, we're taught that our faith is left at the door. We're taught by honestly most churches that church is the place where you display your faith. And that is not what God's word tells us. It tells us that it should live in us in our everyday life. And I know you, that's one of the biggest things that I love about you as a woman, is that you are that, right? And you live in your faith. So tell me about how you started to embody your faith in not only your personal life, but in your professional life.
I think this is another extension of being countercultural and really sifting and sorting, which is a concept that I use often. I really like is that if you start to look for founders and CEOs who are faith-based, you'll start to find them. And that's what I intentionally did years ago. Is like, I'm looking for people who lean on a higher power to make their decisions. And when you find these people, you'll notice that like you have to have quiet spaces in your life.
Yeah.
You have to have quiet spaces because you can't just be like running, putting out fires and also making big decisions. Because God is not gonna scream the answers. Like the Holy Spirit is a whisperer, right? It's a gentle nudge. The Holy Spirit's not gonna yell over your chaotic whatever you have going on. It's not going to be louder than your Instagram feed is what I like to tell people. Like the Holy Spirit is not going to yell louder than the endless stories and scroll, all the scrolling that you're doing. You have to build in spaces in your life where you're intentionally quiet. I rotate because you can't always do the same practice all the time. It becomes work. And if it becomes work, it doesn't work. So I rotate through gratitude lists, through journaling, through quiet time, through meditation, just anything that's going to slow my mind down. And usually putting pen to paper will slow you down because you're thinking fast, but you can't write that fast. So it slows you and it creates this space to kind of help the Holy Spirit have a place to whisper to you and to give you a nudge. And so that in and of itself is countercultural. So there are a lot of founders and a lot of leaders who lean on their faith, but you will never hear it because that's not what people want to hear. They want to
Mhm.
hear that you were just like jet setting all over the world, but really you may just need to be quiet, somewhere. And they do that too. They just don't talk about it.
I promise I am stealing that. That is the definition of the show. We are talking about how to be countercultural,
Mhm.
because the culture is not for us.
No.
And you fill in the blank on whatever culture that is, but there is not a culture currently that exists that I truly believe is doing the good work, like doing it's is operating in a way that truly helps its members. So much of the stuff just creates false identities that people attach themselves to, that makes it difficult for them to discover their personal authenticity and who God has called them to be.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that you are moving in the energy of being who God made you to be and not who the world would like you to be. And
Mm.
it is not the easiest thing to do in the world, because the world is loud. The
Yeah.
world is it is completely and totally everywhere around us, but it is true in that once you identify that and once you start to seek for
Mhm.
the alternatives, it always amazes me how all of a suddenly you show up to this event and this person just walks across the room to you, and this is somebody that you needed to have in your life. You show up to this networking event and now you have these new contacts who you can pray together, something that, as many friends that I've had in my life, and I've got some really good friends, that wasn't a big part of our relationship, that we would sit down and we would actually pray together. But once I made the decision to be more intentional about my faith, it is. And I've got plenty of people in my life, and we share that with we share that side of ourselves with each other. And I
Mhm.
wish that on that. I wish that on absolutely everyone. If I had to pick, one thing that I know for a fact I took away from this conversation from you, it would be that the audacity to be countercultural. And I
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing that. And I know as a forward thinking woman, you have created a resource
Mhm.
for those high achieving women. So I want you to share a little bit more about that with the audience.
Sure. So, when I started my journey, I had paid off a bunch of debt. Like, I really started with personal transformation, and that led to this financial transformation. And so, some of what I do for my coaching clients is help them with their money. So, we created this, I say we, me and my VA, we created this resource to help you identify where you are as a high achiever with your money, because sometimes we were talking about this earlier, sometimes you just need a way to like just a like a compass to know if things are working or not. And money is a good way to tell you if something's working, because money
Mm,
touches all the aspects of your life. And if your money's not working, something is off. And you may not know what it is, but that's a good place to like identify something's broken. And so we have this, it's a real quick download. There's a quiz in there, and it kind of like walks you through 5 reasons why high achieving women still struggle with money, because we're good at learning things, we're good at figuring things out, we're problem and solution oriented. But if we're still struggling with money, there's something below the surface that's going on.
mhm.
And so this will just kind of help you identify if that's you.
I think that is a perfect resource to offer to everyone, honestly, because it is very true that it's the same thing even when you have chaos or clutter in your home. It's not about clutter, it's about an internal clutter or struggle that's happening that is being personified in the state of your home or the state of your finances. So, thank you so much for being so intentional all the way through down to that last gem, which we're going to make sure, as always, you guys have access to in the show notes, along with all of Dr. Fran's contact information, because she is definitely a woman that you need to know. Okay. So, you guys, without further ado, I want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Entrepreneurship Now. Until next time, bye, my cherished loves.
Bye.